welcome to episode 6 of the ADHD Awareness podcast. In this episode, we will interview Dr. Rita Ng, who is a medical doctor, a microbiologist, and a researcher at the Chinese University in Hong Kong. Her area of interest is in the gut-brain axis and the effect the gut biome, which is the number and type of gut bacteria we have, can affect our brain. In the interview, we will discuss the following. Number 1. The link between our gut bacteria and our brain via neuronal and chemical messaging. 2. The effect of our diets on our gut bacteria and the links to symptoms with ADHD. 3. Emerging treatments and current research that show links between what we eat and how it can exacerbate symptoms of ADHD, autism, and other neurodivergent conditions. And finally, number 4, we will discuss findings of the studies that have shown that individuals with ADHD have different commensal or natural gut bacteria and how they are susceptible to certain GI ailments. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the ADHD Awareness podcast series for episode number 6. This podcast is a journey and a mission for me. My mission is to raise awareness for ADHD around the world, in my community, city, and country, and the world. I like the phrase, think globally but act locally. By doing these interviews locally, I am changing the world globally, and I hope that anyone that watches my videos gains insight into how ADHD affects people and can be more understanding in their communities. In my quest to bring more enriching content to this channel, I was delighted to come across our guest today, Dr. Rita Ng. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for your invitation.
You're welcome. So she has been working in the field of clinical microbiology and infectious diseases for more than 15 years. She has been fascinated by the science of microbiology during her career. She's passionate about the research in microbiome, microbiota transplantation, or FMT, antimicrobial resistance, or AMR, and antibiotic stewardship. She holds numerous positions of responsibility in areas of microbiology and infectious diseases, and amongst other positions, she is a member of the Chinese University of Hong Kong's Clinical Research Ethics Committee. She has published in the field of microbiome, FMT, AMR, COVID-19, microbiome, and immunology. Dr. Ng serves as a reviewer for journals and works as an editor for PLOS ONE journal. It is truly an honor to have a researcher of your caliber joining our podcast today. So I wanted to say thank you again. And without further ado, let's get into our interview. So as a microbiologist and a medical doctor, what led you to become interested in ADHD?
As a microbiologist, so I provide antibiotic treatment to my patients with infectious diseases. And I'm hugely frustrated by the lack of understanding of etiological role of microbiota and gut microbial therapy in different diseases, for example, in ADHD. Microbiome is the ecological community of microorganisms that live in or on our body. Dysbiosis, that means the changes in the function of microbiome, is associated with various diseases, including gastrointestinal diseases, metabolic diseases, cancer, neurological diseases, and psychiatric diseases. ADHD is a common neurodevelopmental disorder with elusive etiology. But emerging evidence from the study of gut-brain axis provides opportunities to explain the pathogenesis of this debilitating condition. So in my research, I will have an evidence-based evaluation of the role of gut microbiome in this disease and try to explore specific microbiome signatures accounting for treatment responses.
Okay, so what is the gut microbiota exactly?
The term microbiome has a Greek origin in its terminology. Micro means small, and biota means living organisms of an ecosystem in a particular area in our body. The term gut microbiota refers to the ecological community of commensals. That means the good microorganisms, and potentially pathogenic microorganisms. That means the bad organisms. So these include the bacteria, archaea, fungi, protozoa, viruses that live in our gut.
So is there a big variation in the gut microbiota based on gender, age, or genetics?
Definitely. So various studies have shown that gender, age, and genetics play an important role in the differences of our gut microbiota.
Thank you. So could you elaborate upon this further? I have like a day in my mind of how the type and quality of fuel that you put into the engine affects the quality and quantity of fuel combustion and thus propulsion in an engine. Would you agree with this metaphor?
That's a very interesting metaphor. I would agree with this metaphor. In fact, the gut-brain axis has attracted a lot of attention in the scientific field in recent years. So the gut-brain axis refers to the complicated network of communication between the gut and brain. And this is mediated via nervous system, our immune system, and the metabolites of the bacteria. The gut microbiota is an important component of the gut-brain axis, and alterations in its composition is associated with dysfunction of the gut-brain axis and also in various neurological and psychiatric diseases.
I often hear the term probiotics. In fact, my mother used to give them to me when I was a child. Do they help create a better gut biome?
Yes, that's also a very interesting question. Actually, there has been previous research studies showing evidence of the use of certain probiotics in improving our body functions. For example, there has been randomized control trials, so of studying of the probiotics in improvement in the metabolic function and also prevention of diarrhea in certain groups of patients. But I think we need to be aware of the claims of different probiotics that we are seeing in the market. So some of the claims may be a bit exaggerated. Of course, we need to check the literature and also the scientific evidence for these probiotics.
How is the etiology of the gut microbiome possibly related to ADHD?
In fact, the exact etiology of ADHD is not well known nowadays. Of course, genetics was proposed as one of the causative factors since the disease has been observed in families. However, the reasons of familial link and the exact mechanisms causing the disease is still elusive. Environmental factors have also been proposed by the scientists. For example, exposure to artificial food colorings may increase severity of ADHD symptoms from experimental evidence. But despite some gene environmental interactions yielded suggestive results, to date, convincing replication are still absent. On the other hand, emerging evidence from the study of gut-brain axis provides opportunities to explain the pathogenesis of this condition. In the past, there has been strong evidence from preclinical studies about gut-brain axis. For example, in the previous research studies, they used the germ-free mice, which showed that there was a change of gut-brain signaling because there is a lack of exposure of bacteria in the lifetime of these animals. Microbiota is required for stress hormone signaling, anxiety-like behavior, cognition, and sociability. And in recent studies, the germ-free mice were colonized with microbiota from patients with an ADHD and from the normal individuals. The gut microbiome and the brain structure by MRI imaging behavior of animals were analyzed. In these experiments, the colonized mice showed a reduced resting state functional MRI-based connectivity in certain parts of the brain, for example, the right motor and the right visual cortices. And these areas were previously found to be altered in some neurodevelopmental diseases. So I think all this supports the potential um, importance of the gut-brain axis in disease of ADHD.
Do you think the connection between the guts and the brains of those with ADHD are defective or deficient, or do you think it is the gut biome changing that influences ADHD more?
That's a difficult question. So we still, from science, we cannot prove the causative role of gut microbiome in this stage. I think what we have gathered from the scientific evidence is that there is an association between the gut microbiome and ADHD. Certainly, we need more studies. So, for example, in further studies in different areas of the brain, like frontal lobes, basal ganglia, and other parts of the brain.
Could it be related to other neurological conditions like autism or dyslexia?
Definitely. So the gut-brain axis become one of the important research areas in different neurodevelopmental diseases and psychiatric diseases, so including autism and dyslexia.
Could you help my listeners understand why there is a link between what we eat, the bacteria in our gastrointestinal system, and the effects of neurological conditions as well?
Sure. So the diet is one of the important modulators of gut microbiota functions and compositions. For example, specific dietary components, for example, like saturated fatty acids, animal proteins, and simple sugars, may promote dysbiosis of gut microbiota, meaning that there may be lack of beneficial bacteria and increase of the bad bacteria. This may increase the mucosal area, which in turn may promote the inflammation in our body. The condition of dysbiosis is associated with various neurological conditions. For example, research has shown that ADHD patients often exhibit lower gut microbiota diversity as compared to healthy individuals, suggesting that there is a link between reduced microbial diversity and the disorder.
Could changing the gut microbiome reduce or even resolve the symptoms of ADHD and other learning disabilities and behavior neurodivergent conditions?
I believe that they can do this job. For example, probiotics, they have been shown in the beneficial effects in ADHD. And the other method is the fecal microbiota transplant or FMT. There has been a case report that FMT has improved the symptoms of ADHD in the patients suffering from recurrent Clostridioides difficile infections. So initially, FMT is used to treat the recurrent CDI, but is in that patients, the symptoms of ADHD coexisting with recurrent CDI, in that patients, the symptoms of ADHD was also improved. So there is a previous case report, and I think we need more well-controlled studies to prove the effect of FMT or other gut microbiota therapy in ADHD.
So it seems like there are many probiotics out there. Which ones would you recommend to the viewers? And I myself have taken tablets and I've also had fresh yogurt as well.
So very good, you have taken yogurt in your gut. So we believe that the yogurt contains a lot of good bacteria, which are beneficial in our gut function. Of course, there are also probiotic products in the commercial market. They may be a mixture of bacteria or a single bacteria. So I believe they offer certain beneficial effect in our human body. But specifically, if you are talking about ADHD, I think we still need well-controlled studies to prove the exact beneficial effect in ADHD.
Are people who have ADHD deficient in certain gut bacteria, or are they more sensitive to certain foods like or additives or refined sugars?
Thanks for your question. So I think the first question, yes, research has already shown that people with ADHD had gut microbiome alterations compared with healthy individuals. For example, there has been a decreased abundance of a bacteria called Faecalibacterium in patients in ADHD. Faecalibacterium is a good bacteria in our gut, or we call commensal bacteria. So it has a beneficial role in the human body. It has anti-inflammatory properties that is important in our intestinal health. For the second question, so the research on food additives and sugars on the symptoms of ADHD remain mixed in the scientific field. There's a previous research which suggested that food additives or the sodium benzoate may increase the hyperactivity symptoms in children, but the causative relationship cannot be confirmed up till now. Regarding sugars and ADHD, some studies have reported a modest increase in hyperactivity after eating sugar, but other studies has failed to find this association. So I think the scientific evidence is still mixed for the role of sugars in ADHD.
That sounds very interesting. I hope someday that there are specific treatments that could treat people with ADHD to reduce their symptoms. For our next question, I read that in your research study you have found that there was a statistically significant association between ADHD disease status and less personal preference for vegetables and carbohydrates. Is there, in addition, there was a significant association between ADHD disease status and a pattern of personal preference for miso, kimchi, and dietary fiber, respectively. So, do you think there are food groups in Western, European, and North American diets that show statistical significance as well?
Thanks for this insightful question. So definitely, this is the area that needs further research. In fact, there has been a well-designed prospective study that followed up children for 14 years. This study has shown evidence that the Western diet, so characterized by high intakes of total fat, saturated fat, refined sugars, and sodium, was actually associated with ADHD diagnosis. So I think this study offers concrete evidence that the diet is a very important factor in ADHD symptoms.
Where do you see this research heading in a decade? Do you think we will find new management pathways for ADHD based on microbiome testing?
So, in my opinion, the research on gut microbiome and ADHD is a very exciting topic in science. I would expect ongoing scientific discoveries in the field of gut microbiome of ADHD in terms of potential new diagnostic tools and also therapeutic opportunities.
Does the gut microbiome affect certain types of ADHD more than others?
Yes, some studies have shown that certain gut bacteria are associated with subtypes of ADHD. For example, a previous study has shown that Bacteroides species, which is a type of our gut bacteria, is correlated with the levels of hyperactivity and impulsivity in patients with ADHD.
Is there a way to reset the gut bacteria besides probiotics?
Yes, I think so. So apart from probiotics, what I've just previously mentioned is that has been a case report of fecal gut microbiota transplantation, which incidentally improved the symptoms of ADHD in patients with recurrent Clostridioides difficile infections. So I think definitely other methods apart from probiotics can offer potential benefits in patients with ADHD.
What advice would you give to parents and children about diet, rest, exercise, and general health to help with the management of ADHD?
I think general health advice also applies for patients with ADHD. I think maintaining a balanced diet, adequate rest, and exercise are of paramount importance for good health.
Is the use of probiotics useful in maintaining and improving the gut microbiome?
Yes, a lot of research are ongoing for this topic. Probiotics may restore the composition of our gut microbiome and also introduce beneficial functions of the gut microbiome communities.
I have read that the use of hyperbaric oxygen therapy can aid in reducing symptoms for ADHD. What are your thoughts on this, and what other alternate therapies would you recommend?
Hyperbaric oxygen is being studied as an alternative treatment in ADHD since there is an increase in oxygen levels, which may help in improving the brain function and reduce hyperactivity and impulsivity in patients with ADHD. I think further research is definitely needed to understand the mechanism of the use of hyperbaric oxygen in ADHD.
In biology, we learn about evolution. Do you think the gut biome will adapt to modern dietary factors that exacerbate the symptoms of ADHD?
It's certainly possible. Diet is one of the most powerful modulators of gut microbiota functions and composition. Bacterial species can adapt to significant changes in the environment by different mechanisms. This is actually the key to success of survival of bacteria in our nature.
This has been very interesting, Dr. Ng. We can all agree that diets have increased over the decades, and I hope that more treatments are available in the future so diseases like diabetes will not have as much prevalence as they have now. As always, I'd like to close my interviews out with a quote that I find inspiring. And today I have a quote from the poem Invictus by William Ernest Henley, who wrote it in 1888 when he was recovering from a leg amputation. The last two lines of the poem read, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. I was given this quote hundreds of times by my dad when I was a kid. I never really understood it as a kid, but now as I grow older, I find myself relating to it a lot. There's always a choice. When we struggle with our ADHD, we have the choice that decides how it defines our life. I hope that everyone that watches my interviews makes the decision that ADHD does not define them and they can lower the effect it has on their life and embrace it to do better things with their life. Thank you all for making it until the end of this video. I would appreciate you all to like and subscribe to the channel. I would also be bringing future episodes to the channel very soon. And also be sure to leave a comment so I can know your feedback, and also it'll be beneficial to my viewers to know what this channel is all about. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.